Hi everybody, welcome to Dandelion Cottage and Watercolor Wednesday. I'm Leslie Watkins. How many of you think about what you're going to be designing in the middle of the night? I do this all the time. I'm sure there are folks out there that are thinking about, all the things that they have to do the next day or family and friends and all sorts of things. And I'm obsessing about what I'm going to be doing for my art project the next day. And today I'm going to go back to the Twigs and Sprigs 3D embossing folder. And this is the one that's kind of a hybrid because it comes with a great big framelit die also called Twigs and Sprigs. And the way this works is it creates this beautiful botanical design on your paper, gives you this lovely relief, and it's a deep one, so it casts a lot of shadows, has a lot of dimension. And then what you can do is you can cut out these individual sprigs and use them for embellishments or decoration. So I imagine all sorts of possibilities for this. And the last time I used it, I wanted to see what would happen when I watercolored the individual leaves after I had embossed it. But today I'm going to do it the opposite way because I wasn't really happy with the way that turned out. It was okay, and I'll be able to use those pieces. And I also have some ideas about how I can improve them, and I'll come back to that another time. But today I want to try this other idea, and it may be a fail. I don't know. We're gonna find out. So I'm going to begin by getting a piece of plexiglass out because this is going to get wet. So there's my plexiglass. I also have some ink. So in this tray I have some crushed curry. I think there's a little bit of pumpkin pie, some greens. I've got some soft succulent, some evening evergreen, and some soft suede. So just a basic kind of autumnal kind of a palette. Just put this aside. And I'm using my Stampin' Spritzer and my water painters. And I will just take my palette and spritz this to get the ink wet and moving. The same with my paper. Now I've also got some other inks here. So I've got some yellow, red, and blue. So I'm just going to add a little more color. So I'll add a couple of drops of my yellow. Put a little bit of red over, let's see, I'll just put some right here. And a little bit of blue, and that's all we need. You can mix all the colors of the rainbow with red, yellow, and blue. Okay. There we go. So now all I'm going to do, well, I've got some ink on my fingers, so let me just give my fingers a quick wipe. I'm just going to move the ink around the surface of the paper. I'll zoom you in so you can see a little bit better. There we go. So I'm just going to make a kind of a rainbow across the page. So I'll start with some yellow. Add a little red. I'm using plenty of water. And then finally my blue. So there we go. I'm just going to increase the color here and there. Because I do want it to lean towards the yellows and the greens. I'm just pushing that ink around. There's enough water on here now that I can do that. So it takes a minute for the paper to absorb some of that water so that it forms a nice little liquidy surface that you can push the color around on. So if you're having trouble getting a wash that looks something like this, you may not be using enough water. So just play around, see what you can do. But this is starting to look, to me, I'm in New England, so this is starting to look like the autumn foliage that is about to start happening. It's we've had some rain, so some of the leaves are starting to get rehydrated. We did lose a lot of leaves that just fell because they were so dry. So I'm not sure how the color is going to be this fall, but this is the general idea. Okay, I'm going to put that aside to dry a little bit. And I'll put my inks down. Now I've gone ahead and I've assembled a few things. So what I have here is a very vanilla note card base and envelope. So this is 5.5 by 4.25. I've got my envelope, and I've got some scraps of the distress gold specialty paper. And hello, Rita. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. Ginger. Oh, Ginger. Ginger. It's where she is on the West Coast. It's been 100+ degrees for days. I feel you, Ginger. I'm so sorry. Kelly, good morning. So nice to see you all. Thanks for watching. So I've got some scraps. What I did was I cut out, I embossed and then cut some of these shapes. So I'll take one out and show you. Okay. So this, I'm not sure which one this is. I think this one went down here. So this is how the embossing folder and the dies look when they cut out one of these little leafy sprigs in the distressed gold foil paper. So I quite like that. So I've got a little collection of these things that I've started here. But today I want to use the scrap of paper that the shapes were cut out of. I've also got a little gold border that I cut the window out using the deckled framelit. And I've got a little strip, a little scrap of gold that I couldn't bear to throw away because it's so darn pretty. And I've got this little strip, which I probably won't be using today, but I just wanted to show it to you because I think it's so pretty. And this is the sort of thing that's definitely going to go into my scrap box because I would use this in a journal or on a card or you know, part of a collage, whatever. So I really like the way the embossing folder works with the distressed gold paper. All right, so let's see. This is still plenty wet. If I weren't doing the video, I would let this dry a little bit longer. In fact, you know what? Because we are doing the video, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my heat tool to see if I can speed up the drying here. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to mute so you don't have to listen to the noise. So give me just a minute while I do this. Okay, I'm back. Now, the paper feels sort of dry to the touch, but I know that the core of the paper is still damp, and that's okay. That's what I want. Um, I don't always use the heat tool to dry the paper. I know a lot of people do, but when you use watercolor, many of the pigments sit on the surface of the paper, and if you blow them, you'll destroy the natural settling and the granulation that the pigments make, and I don't like to do that. But with the ink, it's a little bit different because the ink is a dye color, and those dye particles are actually much, much smaller than many of the mineral pigments, and that enables them to seep down into the porous surface of the paper. So in this case, it's not such a big deal. Now I've got my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine here today, but this time I'm going to change up the sandwich because I'm going to be using the 3D embossing folder. So if you have any question about what sandwich to use with your machine and the platform, just look at plate number 1, because that will describe exactly what you need to do for all of the different folders and die sets. So for this one, it says using with 3D embossing folders, use the plate 1, which is this one, then your folder, and then plate 4, which is this dark opaque one. So that's what we're going to do. Get out your folder, and you want to use your folder right side up so you can tell which is the right side because of the writing on the logo here. So take your paper. It's okay if it's a little damp. In fact, I'm going to just spritz this very lightly on the surface. Get that where you want it. So I want to get this corner over here. There we go. Now what you want to do is put the hinged edge or the folded edge of your folder going in first, and then your plate number 4, and just roll that through. Don't worry if it makes a big noise like that, that's okay. And now what you have is something like that. Okay, so next I'm going to take my embossed watercolor and I'm just going to add plenty of glue to the back. This is the multi-purpose liquid glue, and this is particularly nice because it's going to get down into some of these crevices where the debossed shapes are. I want to line this up exactly with the cover of my card. Now, if you cut your paper to a certain size before you wet it, you may find that depending on how much moisture remains in the paper, it may be a little bit larger or a little bit smaller. So I don't know if you can see, but mine is just a tiny bit bigger. So I'm just going to gently burnish this down. I don't want to burnish it so hard that I flatten out my image, just a little. All right, and then I'm just going to cut off that tiny edge. And to do that, I'm using my trimmer. Now, one of the things that I love about the trimmer is that I always get an absolutely square cut. And I can do something as fine as that. So I'll just show you. This is the sliver that I just cut off. So it's practically a hair less. But that gives me that beautiful smooth edge that meets up. So that's just what I wanted. And this looks very pretty like that. I mean, you could use this as your card base. Now I have that little frame that I used the decal to cut the window out of, and I needed this little bit of an extra border around the edges to make sure that I had a nice even frame on all sides. There we go. Use my tweezers, and again lining this up. There we go. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to place this over the top of my watercolor layer or ink layer. I'm just going to make my way around these edges, these interior peninsulas. I want to make sure that these little peninsulas don't lift up, that there's a little drop of glue holding everything in place. And I'm not using a lot of glue. I'm using just the tiniest amount to avoid seepage. So you can squeeze out a little bit of glue on the end of your nozzle and then just kind of push it around. Use your nozzle from the glue bottle as a tool, like a ballpoint pen. Now some of this is going to be excess, and I'm going to end up cutting some of these pieces off. I'm not going to worry about those right now. Just checking to see if I've got all these little points. All right. There we go. All right. So now I've got that in place. I just want to trim this little excess bit off. Cover up the glue. Okay. So there it is, and I like it. I like that very much. All right, and I'm going to use that little strip. So here's that very thin strip of gold, and I'm going to put that on the inside of my card here. For those of you who are interested in watercolor and the Watercolor Card Club, we have a new subject coming up next month, and it's going to be mistletoe, just in time for card making. And next Wednesday, on Watercolor Wednesday, I'm going to give you a sneak preview of the painting we're going to be doing. So if you're not already subscribed to my YouTube channel or my Facebook page, please do that. Please like and subscribe, and you will be notified of when I do that live video and show you the preview of the upcoming Watercolor Card Club lesson. It's going to be a really nice one. It's going to be very easy. It's a great lesson for beginners. So if you're somebody who hasn't done a lot of watercolor painting, or you'd like to learn more about it, this is going to be the great way to do that. So please check that out. You can also go to my website at dandelioncottagedesign.com, and all the information about the Watercolor Card Club is there. and it's a monthly subscription. You can cancel at any time. You get a lot of goodies from me. There's a Facebook group and a live Zoom class, all sorts of things. I will be posting all the details below about the Watercolor Card Club as soon as this video is over. And I urge you, if you're somebody who's been on the fence about watercolor in the past, really consider this one, because it's going to be a good one. So there's my card, everybody, and I like it very much. I hope that gave you some ideas of what you can do with the Twigs and Sprigs embossing folder and framelit set. I really like it a lot, and I'm going to be using this quite a bit because I think there's a lot of potential here. If you like this die set, I will include a link below so that you can go to my online store and get yourself the 3D embossing folder, the dies, and the cut and emboss machine if you don't already have one. And I also have a group called Dandelion Paper Pals, which is a page where you are able to upload and share the projects that you make. And I'm going to ask all my Dandelion Paper Pals to participate in experimenting with this set, because I think there's a lot of unlocked potential here, and I'd love to see what you all do. Anybody can join the group. If you'd like to join the group, just let me know, and I'll add you to the group. It's called Dandelion Paper Pals. It's a private group, but you can find it. Love to have you in there, and that's a great way that you can share all your wonderful designs. So thank you so much, everybody. I'll see you next on Saturday for Paper Crafting Saturday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. And again on Monday at 12 noon for Marvelous Monday. And then don't miss the Watercolor Card Club on Wednesday. The Watercolor Wednesday on Wednesday at 12 noon. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Stay well, stay happy, and stay creative. And I will see you next time.